Buckle up, bitches. It's time to learn about the race to the South Pole. In this corner, we have Team Britain, led by Robert Falcon Scott, an English Navyman with one prior Antarctic expedition under his belt. And in this corner, we have Team Norway, led by Roald Amundsen, the Caitlin Clark of polar exploration. This guy never misses. Both teams landed in Antarctica in January of 1911. Scott anchored in McMurdo Sound, the same spot he had landed in on his first polar expedition about 10 years before. He set up base camp on land and spent the winter mapping out routes, laying depots, and doing a ton of research. Scott's expedition was scientific discovery first and South Pole second, and that's important. He chose this path based on two other British expeditions, his own and Shackleton's previous one, but not that famous castaway-style expedition Shackleton is known for. This one was different. Anyway, Amundsen landed over here, which is about 70 miles closer to the pole. Unlike Scott, he decided to set up base camp on the ice shelf, which was risky as fuck, because, ice can melt and crack and shit. He knew it was risky, but it was also 70 miles closer to the pole, so it was worth it to him. Now, the Norwegians actually embraced the hell out of it, and they made large networks of tunnels and built a sauna and all sorts of crazy shit. Unlike Scott, Amundsen chose a completely unknown route that no one had ever explored, and no one even knew if it was possible. Amundsen really said, fuck it, let's end it. Now, Scott chose Siberian ponies, motorized sledges that weren't even a thing yet, by the way, and good old-fashioned manpower to get the job done. It's important to note that the motor sledges had never been used in polar conditions before. One of them fell through the ice as they were unloading it into the ship, and it sank, and the other two ended up breaking down eventually, too. Amundsen said, no thank you to that, we'll be using sled dogs and skis. Now, Scott did have dogs, but he only brought 22 of them, and he had really very little training in them, and they were very hard to control. Scott put all of his faith in horsepower and manpower. Both teams faced about an 800-mile trek ahead of them, crossing the Ross Ice Shelf, a big-ass glacier, through the Transantarctic Mountains, and across the polar plateau to reach the South Pole. Both teams laid depots along the way to help with rations and shit, and Amundsen and Scott both took teams of fives to reach the pole. Amundsen left for the pole on October 19th, 1911. He took 4 other men with him, 4 sleds, and 54 dogs. Here's your starting lineup for Team Norway. Scott left for the pole on November 11th. He took 12 sleds, 22 dogs, 10 ponies, and 2 motor sleds. He started with 16 men, but in the end he chose a final 4 to go with him to the pole. Here is your starting roster for Team England. Alright guys, this video is long enough. Part 2 will cover the race to the pole itself and the tragic aftermath. Follow along for part 2 and stay awesome, y'all.